Hey everyone, this time on Tim Talks Audio, we're checking out a drum synthesizer from Baby Audio. This is Tekno. Hi, my name is Tim. I'm a recording and mixing engineer, and I just want to make things easier for you. Today we're going over the drum synthesizer Tekno. This is brand new from Baby Audio and allows for a ton of manipulation. So let's get right into it. Let's dive into the DAW. So here it is. This is Tekno, and as we usually do in our plugin or instrument review videos, we're going to go over a lot of the controls, and then later on we're going to get into the audio examples. If you want to jump ahead, use the chapters down below. This is the interface for Tekno. There's a lot going on because this is an entire drum machine, and let's go over it little bit by little bit, and you'll see as we go through things how they kind of all interact. Obviously, up in the top left, this is where all of the pads and triggers are for your kicks, your snares, your claps, your toms, your hats, it's all of your drums. You can trigger them all here. And then on the right-hand side, this is actually just like a visual user interface. This doesn't really do much. There's nothing going on in here. It shows, you can click here to open the menu, and it'll show some information down on bottom. Then along bottom are the different sections that you can manipulate your different sounds and the generation of these synthesized drums. You can change it sort of in real time. So let's take a look. Right now, you can see we have Kick B highlighted. That's just the one we have. If I wanted to change the clap, I'll just click on clap and I'll hear it and how it sounds. I have a visual waveform kind of showing me the sound it's synthesizing. And now all the controls on bottom have reflected the change to the new pad that we're on. And you can see if I hold here, if we look on the right-hand side of the interface, click and drag to export sample to DAW or folder. So if we just click and drag, I can now pull it open and there's my sample. Amazing, right? And as we start manipulating, it's going to generate new samples and you can pull those in as well. Okay, so let's go back to Kick B, which sounds like this. That's how it sounds right now, versus Kick A. Two very different kicks. So maybe we want to change how Kick B sounds. We can come down here to synthesize and change where is the middle frequency. So right now it's set to 49. We can adjust this. Maybe we want it closer to 60 and watch the waveform. This will actually change as I'm adjusting things. So of course, with lower frequencies, we have longer waveforms, and higher frequencies, we have shorter waveforms. We're seeing that happen, or in the user interface here. That's a very high kick, super low kick. Let's go back to something like low ND, 50 hertz is fine. We can change the length, so really long, or really short and tight. So you can manipulate anywhere in there. And again, we have body. You can see how it's manipulating, so less body, more body. So this is... That's nice. Click, obviously, is your attack. You can see the front end of the waveform is like smoothing out or getting kind of harder. So let's go down here and click all the way up. So it's giving us a bit more or less of that attack. And of course, drive is exactly what you think. It's a bit of drive. So we can do that. Then we have the effects section. And again, we're still only manipulating the one pad, Kick B. We can add way more sub. Tons of sub there. The exciter, turn that off. The tilt EQ to either kind of have the top ends go up and the low end come down, or the other way around. So this way, and then the other direction. So we're going to shift our frequency spectrum with a tilt EQ right here. A saturator. This is different from drive, but it is still saturation. And a built-in reverb per pad. So we can hear it's got some extra length. So to the right of that is a built-in sort of like master section, we'll call it. This allows you to do some panning because we're on a stereo track. I can now have my kick on the left, on the right with this control here. Its overall volume can be adjusted with this control, and I'm just alt clicking, or that would be option clicking when you're on a Mac. That's how you can snap things back to normal, and built-in ducking. And then you can select your side chain input for the ducker. So let's say kick A is happening I want kick B to duck whenever kick A is hitting, right? So this is our trigger for the duck. What's going to get this one pad, kick B, out of the way is kick A. If kick A happens, it's going to send signal to kick B ducker and be like, hey, get out of the way. It's my turn. To the right of that is clearly the master section with overall cutoff for your top and bottom end with sliders. You can see that right here. Humanize so that this way, when you have just like straight MIDI, which may or may not have velocities in here, you can still impart some velocity differences in your pattern. So you can have it be more dynamic and not just really kind of machiney. So human will add in some extra humanization processes. Limit is exactly what you think. It's a built-in limiter. Clip is exactly what you think. It's a built-in clipper. And level is the overall output level for the entire instrument. If I want everything loud or if I want everything quieter, there we go, overall level. Then we skipped over them, and you'll now actually see the Tekno section become more alive, because this was where we'll see even more in-depth controls, because we haven't gone over this. So if I hit mix, here is our built-in mixer for all of the different pads, right? If I hit reverb, now I have master calibration for my reverb across all of my pads. So I can go ahead, let's turn mix off and see our pads again. Pre-delay, decay, size, modulation, all of the controls for the master reverb. Master limiter, the release time, the drive, the knee, the high pass filter, the humanization that we were just talking about, this control right here, the timing, the accents. This is where you can customize all of these things. And then, of course, in other velocity, clip ceilings, filter Q, so the bandwidth of these filters, and the release time for the ducker. This is all underneath here. So in a similar vein where we have these controls, if we go to synthesize, we're still on kick B, and I hit the settings, here we go. I can change the cutoff and all of the parameters within just kick B, and I can scroll in here as well. So I can adjust the resonator, the pitch modulation, or the pulse. So this is how we can adjust. Not only from these controls can we adjust how kick B sounds, but when we go into the settings, we can now manipulate even more. Same thing goes for the effects. If we hit on the cogwheel here, we can now go in for just kick B's effects and start changing how all of the effects in here work. So the filters, the transient shaper, the saturation, tilts, excitement, subharmonics, a ton going on. Now, because we're working with Baby Audio has its randomize button, and you can do that on specific things, or you can do it across everything. And you may notice that in all of the different pads, you see a little pencil up on top, so we can go in and start changing things. But when we're selected on a pad, we can now see that the pencil has changed to a little 5-dot button. This is the randomize button, the Baby Audio randomizer. So now for just this one pad, I will randomize all of its settings. See, everything in synthesize and effects has changed. So if we just very quickly undo, here's the original. And now we'll hit randomize. And now I have a totally new hat sound. Hit it again. That's interesting. Now, here's where things can get crazy. I can randomize just the effects on that pad without changing the actual synthesis of it. I can change just the synthesis on that pad without changing the effects. Or if I really want, I can change everything. And that is right here. This is the master randomize button, and I'm going for it. Every single pad has changed, every single synthesize and effects have all randomized. And now we have a completely different kit. But instead of listening to that, I'm just going to go to the initial preset, and we can hear bunch of different sounds. I have this MIDI loop in the back over here, and I'm just going to turn my loop on, and we're going to hit play. Now we're going to listen to how this thing sounds. And as we're going through the loop, I'm going to play with the randomize button because it'll show you the power of Tekno's drum synthesis and how it can create completely different sounds and kits on the fly. And then you can go in and adjust just 1 or 2 or 5 pads as you need. Let's have some fun. Here comes Tekno. That's our initial. That's our loop and the default instance of Tekno. Now, we'll also click through some of the presets because the presets in here are great. The preset browser is right here, and I don't have anything in user, but you can see this is a very large library of already made presets. And we're just going to click through a couple of those. And if you want to favorite them, just hit the button over here and it'll become one of your favorites. So we're still in on the initial default value. Let's click through some presets and let's randomize things as well. Tons and tons and tons of different sounds. I'm going to hit randomize one more time, and then let's go into snare, which sounded like that. That's too much. So let's take a listen one more time in the context, but let's adjust snare and let's do it in real time so you can see and then be able to lock that snare into the sound you're going for. Also, because we're working with MIDI, let's just be crazy and change our tempo down to something like 95, which you probably wouldn't do anyway, but it just shows because we're working with MIDI, we can do this and it still just totally works. Let's manipulate snare A. So tons of manipulation, tons of flexibility, and then you can just save it as a preset and have your kit that you custom make available to you every single time. So there it is. That is Tekno from our friends over at Baby Audio, and Tekno is available right now. So if you're interested in the drum synthesizer, use the link down in the description. That's all this time. I hope you're inspired by Tekno to go out there and look into drum synthesis to be able to manipulate your sounds as you're going through the writing process or even as you're performing live. You could use this as a synthesizer in a live show and in the show be creating new sounds as you're doing it. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed and happy mixing. See you soon.